Hello, and welcome to your Leadership Tidbit. My name is Monica Tuckrar, and today I want to talk about unconscious bias. There's been so much going on in the world these days, especially here in the US, but all around the world, around protests, around racial diversity, social reform, Black Lives Matter, and it's very, very important to start recognizing that unconscious bias really exists. There's lots of research and data that show unconsciously, and this is like 90% of what we're doing in the world. 90% of our bias is unconscious. We're not consciously doing it. 90% the data shows, and we all have it. There's research out there that shows this. There's great books on this topic called Bias and a few others. There's the Harvard Implicit Association Test, IAT, that you can take to just see if there is any bias that you live in, that we all might live in. But what I want to talk about with the unconscious biases is that it's all around us, and it's based upon where we were raised, our environment that we live in. Media and advertisements that play over and over and over again can inform these biases, and then it really impacts how we live out in the world. And this really impacts leaders. It impacts all of us as we start thinking about in organizations, recruiting, hiring, succession planning. It starts getting to the ideas of mentorship, who we decide to mentor, because we're so used to being with people that look just like us. And it's not inherently a bad thing, except it limits the ability for people who are in minority positions in organizations, females, African Americans, other racial groups, from getting to the opportunities because they're not currently there. So when we think about unconscious bias, I'll give you a couple of examples. There's studies out there that show if you go into a wine store and you hear German music, you're more apt to buy German wine. If you are in a in a wine store and listen to French music, the percentage shifts to more French wine being bought. There's also research studies done back in the 80s that showed that symphony orchestras were made up mostly of men. And they decided consciously, the hiring officials and orchestras in general in the US decided to do blind hiring, kind of like The Voice, except you couldn't hear what they're singing, but you could hear them on instruments. So they wanted to do, they put a curtain in the front, and they decided to listen to blind auditions. And what they also realized, that women who are wearing high heels, they could hear that too. So they also made people take off their shoes. They'd come in and start auditioning, and lo and behold, the percentage of women getting hired in symphonies significantly increased because of the blind auditions. So we systemically have to shift how we look at things. And how do we do that? How do we get to unconscious bias? First, we have to be self-aware that all human beings have it. It's inherent in us. We can open up to the idea that it's there, and it's human to have bias. Secondly, we need to then start asking for feedback and looking for different perspectives. And this gets to really, really listening deeply to other perspectives in the world. This could be people of different genders, of different colors, specifically now with everything going on in the world, listening to African American friends, colleagues, people in your world. And if not, research, look for opportunities to listen to them out in the media or out on documentaries, or at other places, that you get a different perspective. And I think the third part is really putting yourself in the shoes of others. Put yourself in an environment where you are not the majority group, whether that's a religious ceremony, whether that is a community organization where it's not just people like you who are in those organizations. And then 4, start taking some action. Figure out what you can do differently as a result of the learnings that you're getting from those places. Unconscious bias is everywhere, and it really is something that we all, as human beings of all races, can look into and figure out ways to overcome. Again, my name is Monica Tuckrar. There's a lot more to be said on this topic, but we'll stop there for today. You can always reach me on my website, monicatuckrar.com, or on my YouTube channel and find more information. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Monica Tuckrar, and this is your Leadership Tidbit.